The oncologist, European Perspective, is in Brussels today to interview Dr. Françoise Meunier, Director General of the EORTC. This year, the EORTC celebrated its 50th birthday, and this organisation has contributed so much to cancer care and cancer research, particularly with a European flavour. Dr. Meunier, when you joined the EORTC in 1991, what did you think were the major challenges that you faced?
It was quite a surprise. I realized that I had to adapt the data center to current modern methodology of clinical research and to have those change adapt and accepted by the network and by the staff.
And was that a difficult process?
Well, it was a challenge. It was a major challenge, yes.
Obviously, there have been many advances that have taken place in cancer care in the last 21 years since you came to the EORTC. How do you think the EORTC has significantly contributed to some of those successes?
Yes, I think EORTC has mainly contributed in two types of trials. First is academic multidisciplinary trials, trials with surgical component or irradiation component. Do you irradiate the larynx? Do you do extensive surgery for breast cancer and so on? Nothing to do with drugs development, but also the second type of trials, trials related to evaluate better treatment with new drugs. And for example, for rare disease, where there is absolutely no interest from pharmaceutical industry. I think about temozolomide for brain tumor and Glivec for sarcoma, the famous GIST, gastrointestinal soft tissue sarcoma.
And that's been a big success, is it, in a disease where there was very little before that?
Yes, and I think we can say that EORTC has brought changing practice trial in many types of cancer, melanoma, colorectal, head and neck, Hodgkin disease, even children leukemia. In all types of cancer, we have really established a new standard of care.
And why do you think EORT has been so successful in bringing on this new standard of cancer care, particularly in Europe?
Well, it was Europe before Europe. It was the success of a group of visionaires, the founder of EORTC, who were really believing in Europe and who put their act together and agreed to work together to collaborate on a pan-European level since '62.
In 1998, you recognised that both developing and trialling innovative new drugs in the European setting was very difficult. There were different national rules, the regulations were very cumbersome, and so EORTC launched the Pan-European New Drugs Development Programme, or NDDP. Looking back over the last 24-25 years since NDDP was formed, what do you think it has achieved?
Well, as I mentioned, EORTC has contributed to evaluate new combination treatment, but also new drug. And the strength of EORTC was to adapt to the environment. We had to adapt to the legal requirement, to the European directive, to the lack of harmonization of implementation of the European directive. And so not only we create the new drug development program, but we realized that we had to go through a new drug advisory committee to a translational research advisory committee, because we now much better understand what is wrong on the cellular level and all the mutations that make a cell becoming cancerous. So we need to do translational research. And even further than that, we realized that we had to develop what we call the network of core institutions to really cooperate not only on clinical trials and putting patients in clinical trials, but to understand why this patient will respond and why this other patient with the same disease will not respond. And this is translational research. And for that, we need labs. And so we continuously adapt to the environment and to the need of modern cancer clinical research.
And I suppose, taking on that point you make in terms of adapting to new challenges, There are certain new challenges we now face in relation to cancer drug development and also in terms of trying to increase clinical trial activity in Europe. How do you think we can go about trying to face up to these challenges?
Well, I am an optimistic by nature, otherwise you don't work in oncology. And I am confident that the current discussion on the revision of the clinical trial directive will give us a better framework. Of course, it is very lengthy. We are currently discussing with the European Commission. There has been a new proposal which is going to be discussed. It has to go again to the European Parliament. It has to go again to each member state. But let's hope that this time we will hear my voice about streamline, simplify, harmonize, which are my buzzwords.
Yes, no, that's certainly your mantra, and you've demonstrated that mantra over the last number of years, and certainly fingers crossed in relation to that. This, of course, is the 50th anniversary of EORTC, and one of the reasons why we're talking today. And you held a highly successful conference this March in Brussels. As Director General of the EORTC, what were your thoughts at that birthday party?
I was extremely happy and moved. It was an emotional moment to see 1,200 participants committed, dedicated. It was fantastic for the corporate spirit of the network and also of the staff, all of those young persons from the staff. We are here 170, and many young did not realize in which type of institution they were working. So I was really pleased to have them participate to this event. And at the same time, I must say, I was extremely happy about the success of what we have achieved, and also concerned that we will be able in the next 50 years to meet the challenge and to keep Europe on the map. I think it is really important in this current economic situation, in the crisis, in this morosity, to keep hope, optimism. That's why the film that we prepare for the 50th anniversary is called The Energy of Hope. And I really think it's a challenge for the next 50 years.
It is indeed, and it's a wonderful film. I watched it there recently, very instructive and very uplifting. Yes. One thing that strikes me very clearly is that under your leadership, EORTC has recognised two things that are very relevant to a robust, both clinical but also translational pan-European cancer programme. One is improving the interaction between academia and industry, and the second is enhancing some of those young researchers' opportunities that you mentioned to conduct high-quality clinical research. How do you think EORTC already achieves that, and then what do you think it further needs to do as we go on into the next 50 years?
Yes, there are two aspects in what you are raising. The first is the changing model of partnership with pharmaceutical industry. Also, and in Europe, pharmaceutical industry are facing difficulties, the same challenge of regulatory environment, but also economical crisis. So we have to identify a new model, and perhaps IMI, the Innovative Medicine Initiative, is something very promising, where we should really define better and mutual understanding and trust between the academic world and pharmaceutical industry. The second aspect, which is an equal challenge, is the young generation. I am really concerned with the motivation of young generation and making sure that we have again in Europe these real visionaries dedicated to their work and who wants to keep Europe on the map. And I really think it's important to train those young medical doctors to do clinical trials. That is why we have created the EORTC Fellowship Program in 1991. And since that time, we have had a royal decree allowing us to have a fellowship for medical doctors from all over the world. And we have had 125 medical fellows spending minimum of 1 year up to 3 years at the EORTC headquarters to get training in methodology of clinical research, because this is something that you don't learn at universities.
Absolutely, and I think that is a superb program, and also it very much they're able to bring that rigour back to their own centres then to conduct high quality clinical research. Quality of life is a key issue that we face for our cancer patients, particularly as now our patients are living longer because we're being more successful in relation to cancer treatments that we've seen since the EORTC started back in 1962. How does EORTC aim to improve the quality of life of the cancer patient?
Yes, this is a major issue, and in fact EORTC has been a pioneer. We have an excellent group of psychometrists dedicated to development of tools to evaluate quality of life and perception, the own perception by the patient. But we have also a very strong quality of life department here at the headquarters in Brussels. So this is really a major achievement which is recognized worldwide. Many clinical trials in cancer conducted outside the EORTC use the tool developed by the EORTC Quality of Life group. And as a matter of fact, we do also organize courses and conferences, including conference at the European Parliament, which we are very proud of, to suscitate interest from the European Parliament on research on quality of life. In fact, we are also dedicated to supportive care and to the control and management of infectious disease. My own field before I joined EORTC was the management of infection, complication of chemotherapy, particularly in leukemic and neutropenic patients. So EORTC has also been a pioneer, and sometimes Europeans forget that the establishment of febrile neutropenic management and empirical antibiotics in case of fever and neutropenia is a result of EORTC research.
And that was a very important development. And I believe that you have a quality of life conference coming up in Brussels in October, is that right?
Yes, we will have again, like last year, a conference on quality of life at the European Parliament in October in 2012.
Excellent. Well, hopefully some of our readers will come along to that conference.
Yes.
On the same theme in relation to the cancer patient, and we talk about the cancer patient being very much at the centre of the process, how do we maintain that, and also how do we encourage cancer patients to be advocates for cancer research and cancer care?
Yes, it's a new direction, a new movement, I would say, perhaps because patients survive much longer, and now they realize that they have to be an actor. And there are many patient advocacy groups, and EORTC has created specific links in EU projects, but also outside EU projects, to cooperate with patient representatives. For example, prior to submit a patient information sheet to ethics committee for approval, we would like to have the endorsement of patients who have gone through the disease, who understand much better what to put in a patient information sheet. I must say that I am very concerned with this regulatory obligation and requirement, and I think it is not very human to ask a patient who lie on a bed to tell you have a cancer, we don't know the best treatment for you, you may have the chance to be in a clinical trials, and you have to endorse 13 pages of informed consent, which is quite indigest. And somewhere we penalize the doctor who have the scientific honesty and the rigor to say to the patient, we can incorporate you in a clinical trials if you wish to do so, and to add an extra burden both on the patient and on the doctor.
And how do you see us addressing that challenge? Because it is a big challenge, and it's a challenge that a lot of us face around the world, in Europe and also in the United States.
Well,
can you see any way in which we can streamline the process?
The best way to streamline, simplify, harmonize is to ask the patient themselves, to be their advocate and to involve them in those decisions.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a very good way. There has been some evidence that is going to be very successful, so we hope it will improve. Finally, on a personal level, you yourself recently celebrated your own 21st birthday at EORTC. What has made you most proud in the last 21 years, and what are the main challenges that you feel EORT faces in the rest of this decade?
Well, I am very proud that EORTC exists, that we could survive several crises, several changes, and that we could adapt. And this is a major source of a reward, and I am extremely happy about that. The challenge, as I said, will be to pursue, to face the current needs of complexity of clinical research, because nothing is the same as 50 years ago or 60 years ago, and the current clinical trials methodology require the cooperation of many specialists from the lab, from the clinics, from the imaging, from the pathology department, from the molecular biology point of view, and we are ready to face the challenge to next decade oncology.
I think with you at the helm, it will certainly be successful. Dr. Meunier, thank you very much for your time. I congratulate you on the EORTC on your 50th birthday, and we look forward to hearing from the EORTC again in relation to our readers on European perspectives. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.